Hello, welcome to Algorithmz. Today we are going to discuss about cloud governance on Azure platform. The basic fundamentals of cloud governance are same irrespective of the cloud vendor, whether it is AWS or Azure, but they have put it in a different frame of words and in terms of representation. So there are basically five different areas of governance disciplines in cloud. One is cost management, that how are you managing your cost in your organization and how are you controlling it. Number two is security baseline. So once your security requirements are established, so the cloud governance policies and enforcement apply those requirements across your infrastructure. Identity baseline, you have to, again, just like security baselining, you have to baseline your identities as well, just to make sure that there are no inconsistencies in terms of application identities. Deployment acceleration is, again, the focus is centralization and standardization of approaches to deployment and configuration. Okay, resource consistency, it's all about a resource consistent resource configuration. Okay, and through governance tooling, resources can be configured consistently to manage risk related to the onboarding, recovery, drift, and so on and so forth. Now, this is it from the cloud governance discipline perspective, and these are the areas. Now I am going to cover one area, which is cost management, in this presentation, and maybe sorry, maybe look at other areas in future presentations. So the cost management again is driven by four different principles. One is business risk, metrics and indicators, policy compliance and process, and tool chain. Now, since it is cost management, the business risk has to be evaluated from the cost management perspective. So for instance, what is risk, how you define it? So from the cost perspective, are you saying, is it the cost is future proof, budget overrun, over allocation? So for instance, if budget overruns are a potential risk in the future, uh, just in scenarios where you have a major release coming in next 6 or 8 months, which is going to consume several services which are not yet configured or taken into consideration. So that has to be drafted in your policy statements and it has to be enforced. Similarly, a future proof and over allocation. So for instance, if you have allocated certain amount and that is an indicator that okay, uh, I have to spend X amount of USD on the monthly basis, but how are you going to monitor it? So there has to be an indicator to monitor and there has to be a policy to resolve it. From the resolution perspective, you need to have a policy statement drafted uh, uh, and enforced as well, depending upon the budget that you specify from the over allocation perspective and what are your monthly allocations. Now from the metrics and indicators perspective, you have to look at your annual spend, the total annual cost for services provided by any cloud vendor. Similarly, monthly spend, forecast versus actual ratio, pace of adoption. So the percentage of delta in cloud cost from month to month. So for instance, in Jan, if your cloud cost is X amount, and then in Feb, your cloud cost is Y amount, then what is that delta and what is the reason why that delta has gone up or gone down? So that you have to track very closely. Planning, review, and reporting is part of policy compliance process. So you do initial risk assessment and planning, you do deployment planning, annual planning, quarterly planning, education and training in terms of any changes in cost. So you have to make sure that your teams are educated. For instance, your sysadmins, your security operations team, your database management team. Most of the IT folks who are using cloud services, they must be aware of how the cost is changing as they are using different features or services in the cloud. And if you look at the evolution of different services in the cloud, it has been significant in last couple of years. every 3 months, 4 months, there are new services, there are new features. So you have to keep track of those and make sure how it impacts, if your organization is using, what is the impact of cost on your organization, because at the end of the day your team is responsible for managing and controlling those costs. Okay, ongoing monitoring is also part of policy compliance and process. Now, from tool chain perspective, there are different tools available from different vendors. For instance, for budget control, you have so this presentation is about Azure, so I'm going to talk about Microsoft Azure tools. When I cover AWS, then I'm going to specify AWS tools as well. Budget control, you have Azure cost management. For enforcing account metadata on resources, you have Azure policy. For detecting over provisioning, you have Azure advisor, in order to make sure that you're managing the cost and policies in a consistent manner as it is defined by your organization and your cloud team. Okay, I guess this is it from my side. And if you have any question, please drop me an email. In case of any feedback, drop your comments or write an email to us. Thank you very much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe the channel. And if you have any other interest, or if you would like us to focus on any specific area, please let us know. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.